Schönramer Hell.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is one from the private Landbrauerei Schönramer in Bavaria, and it is their Schönramer Hell. Now, I've got a mate who lives in Germany, and he tried that the other week, and he said it was absolutely fantastic. I never tried this before, but I've tried the Pils. I think it's the Pils. Yeah, it's the Pils. Very, very bitter, but it was nice. I do remember it being a nice Pilsner, very, very herbal, very spicy hop character on it, and it was one of the more extreme flavours of a Pilsner, certainly from Bavaria. So, on his recommendation, I've decided to pick this one up. And on doing my research for this, it's quite interesting the amount of awards that this stuff has won. I was quite shocked, actually, and they're recent awards as well. I think the most recent one was in 2020. So it must be half decent. And there's quite a few other people who've said to me about this Schönramer stuff, and they've all been favourable. I've not heard a bad word said about it so far. So I thought, well, I've got to try this out. Now, I think one of the viewers on the channel has said that this is one of their top 10 beers. So, I mean, that's probably not saying much if it's at number 10, but if it's at number 1, then, you know, I do respect other people's tastes. So I think this is a worthy contender for being reviewed. Now, this is from the private Landbrauerei Schönram, which is based in Bavaria. In fact, it is so close to the Austrian border, the nearest big city is Salzburg, which of course is in Austria. There's no real big German cities near it. It's that far over, near the border. I think it's only about less than 100 miles from the border with Austria. So they're quite, I wouldn't say they're remote, but they're not in the sort of Munich region or Nuremberg, you know, where the big cities are. But they have been going since 1780, which is no mean feat. What's even more impressive, they are a family-owned brewer, and they have been family-owned throughout all their history, and they are currently on the 8th generation of family. So that, for me, is quite impressive. Unfortunately, there's no brew sheet on the website, and I can't really determine accurately what has gone into this beer. I'm only getting it's saying that it's conforming to the Reinheitsgebot, but that could mean anything in my opinion. I think that's more of a marketing term now than anything else. So you'll have to take this with a pinch of salt. So that's all I'm going to say about it. It's nice and cold. I'm gagging for a beer, so let's get it checked out. A 500ml bottle, and it's 5%. It doesn't really say much on here. Usual fare, Brauwasser, Gassen, malten Hopfen, water, malted barley and hops, and that is about it really. The rest is in German. What is it saying? That's just saying about the region, tradition, blah blah blah. So yeah, quite an understated label. And yeah, that's about it. As I say, the only one I've tried from them lot is the Schönramer Gold. No, it's Schönramer Pilsner. So this will be the second one I've tried from this brewery. So let's shut up, let's get it open, let's see what's going on. Right. Will this blow me away, or will this be another run-of-the-mill? Well, I'm not saying run-of-the-mill. If it's come from Bavaria, it's usually fairly good. Come on, autofocus, you. See, this is what winds me up about this bloody camera. There, finally, do your job. That's a lovely colour. That's a typical Bavarian Helles. Very, very light. What's the aroma like? Oh, lovely. Do you know what? Sometimes when you pour beers out, you do get quite a lot of sulphur that's built up in the bottle, and it does translate. It doesn't last long, but it just needs to evaporate. Straight out of the bottle, this has got really nice aromas. And the aromas I'm getting, a big sweet lemon, if you can imagine that, some grassy and herbal notes on there. None of the liquid bread. A little hint of honey on that too. And they do say in this brewery that they do put a lot of emphasis on the hops, and that was borne out by the flavour of their Pilsner. That was really, really hoppy and bitter, but in a nice way. I quite liked it. It was unique, certainly for the southern region of Germany. There it is in the glass. That's not, I don't know, that might be a little bit hazy. It's actually got a little bit of a haze to it. Interesting. It smells great though. Let's get it down the hatch, see how good it is. Prost, as I say in Germany. Let me dive in again. Is it me? But there is a little bit of spice, and I do mean spice. Wow, there is. That's amazing. I don't think I've ever had that before. And that long finish on it. Blimey. This, I'm going to have to dive in again. There's a lot going on with this. This isn't your average run-of-the-mill liquid bread type Helleses. And it's not my imagination. I've never seen that before, or never tasted that before. A beer from Bavaria with a malt has taken a back seat, and this is all about the hops, which is really interesting. Now, I'm gutted that they never said what type of hops they put in here, but I'm assuming they're one of the four noble hops, probably had some type of Hallertauer hop. But there does appear to be some kind of Sarts or quite bitter hopping in there. But the spiciness is what does it for me. It actually feels like pepper. Now, if you grind up some pepper and you take some, it does, I wouldn't say it burns, but there's a little bit of, yeah, I think it's a little bit of heat, but it's obviously not like a chili type heat. There's a little bit of heat that comes from that and a little bit of flavour. If you can imagine, if you've ever roasted peppercorns and crushed them, and believe me, if you are into your eating and stuff like that, your cuisine, try and roast up the peppercorns and then grind them, and the flavours you get are a hell of a lot stronger. The flavours I'm talking about aren't in the hops, but the sensation on the tongue. I thought it was my imagination, because I've just had some quite spicy olives just before this. But the hop character is leaving an almost spicy hot finish on my tongue, which is, I've never had that in a beer. Unless you talk about them fucking stupid beers, they put chilies in. Oh my god, what the fuck are they thinking of doing that? And there's none of that liquid bread finish on the end of it, which is unusual. I would have expected that from a Bavarian Helles, but there definitely isn't any of that. There's quite a bit of lemon citrus. Occasionally I'm getting some honey type notes on it. But the big thing on this is the herbal and spicy notes. But altogether, it is very drinkable, and it's cold. This has come out of the fridge. It's cold, it's not chilled. This is cold. And it's super drinkable, even with all that flavour on there. Now, if I wasn't analysing these flavours, I'd say, yeah, it's got a little bit of hop character and just be guzzling this. But when you really do analyse the flavours, you'll see that the lack of that liquid bread finish that you get with almost all Bavarian beers, even the dark beers as well, you do get a hint of that, more caramel overtones on them, but that's not here at all. This is all about the hops, as was the Pilsner that they do. And I will say, and this is nice, this is probably one of the bitterest German or Bavarian Helles that I've tried. Normally, any of the hop bitterness is evened out with like a honey type sweetness and that liquid bread malt. There is a little bit of the honey in there, but there's none of that, as I say, there's none of the bready malt finish. And that's why it's making it slightly bitter. I'm not going to say, oh, you're going to be reeling back and thinking, oh, this is fucking really bad, but no, I like it. I think it's different and it's really nice. And it's really easy drinking as well. That's good. I like that. That is different and it's nice. So what is the verdict on Schönramer Hell? Well, it's definitely different and it's definitely got character. And I love that in a beer. Now, this obviously comes from Bavaria. And the characteristic of Bavaria is that liquid bread finish. Certainly in the Helles, you do get that in, well, almost all the ones I've tried. If you really want to experience that, then try the Augustiner, the St. Gorgenbräu, Paulaner, any of the Munich breweries, Hacker-Shaw, Spalter, all them breweries, they do have the characteristic of having that liquid bread finish on their Helles. But this doesn't, and it's emphasised the hops, but it's done it in a way which is in keeping with the Bavarian style, but just remove that liquid bread finish. And I think that's really interesting because it does show the characteristic of the noble hops. Now, if you try a Bavarian Helles, yes, you're going to get some hop character on it. There's no denying that. You get a little bit of herbal and spicy, sometimes even grassy and hay type notes on there, but that's just overpowered on the finish with that liquid bread, and the malt is just dominant right at the end. But this is really good, and it's not just good because it's a good drinking beer, but if you're into your reviewing beers, and if you're really into your flavours, and you want to experience what noble hop character is without the liquid bread dominating the finish, then I would suggest this. It's very clean drinking, very nice, nice mouthfeel, as you would expect from that region. But as I say, I don't know how they've done it, but they've isolated the hops and given this a character all of its own. And I don't think I've ever had a beer. I'm saying I don't think I've ever had a beer from Bavaria. I don't think I've ever had a beer from Germany that's done that in that fashion. And I should have really known that was the case, because the Pils that they did, or the Pilsner, was really all about the hops as well. And that's nice. That's intriguing me now. I want to try their Dunkel and see what that's like, because you can't get away with not concentrating on the malt in a Dunkel. Well, at least I don't think you can. But I think that's going to be next on the list. Something else from this lot, because if they're going to be putting the emphasis on the hops, that's really good. Not just for obviously trying out new beer, but it does sort of train your palate, and it does give you a taste of what the hop character is without the malt interfering. And it's good. I like that. There is malt there, don't get me wrong, it is there, but it's not big, and it doesn't dominate, and it just leaves the hops isolated, and it's good. It's really nice, actually. Yeah, so for that reason, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. it's, again, if you're not into analysing beer and you just want a good beer to drink, this is a really nice beer of its own merit. But if you watch these reviews and you want to know what I'm talking about when I talk about spicy notes, when I talk about herbal notes, grassy notes, when I'm drinking German beer, try this, because it will, I wouldn't say train your palate, but it will get you used to what I'm trying to describe, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I think for that reason, that's a worthy 8 out of 10. If you want to get some, I got that from the House of Trembling Madness, and it cost me, I have ye oldie price list here, that was $2.75. I think it's worth paying out $2.75, even if you just buy one bottle of it, just to get all that hop character in a glass. Yeah, really nice. It's nice on its own. So if you're not interested in anything I've said about the hop character, then just fucking buy it, because it is a nice beer. There are better beers out there from Bavaria, I will say that. The ones I've just mentioned, all the ones with the liquid bread, I love that liquid bread malty finish. I think that's what makes Bavarian beer unique. But I think what they've done here is they've sort of bucked the trend. They're like the punk rockers of Bavaria, or the Bavarian brewing world, and said, fuck your liquid bread, we're just going to do the hop character. And it's brilliant. I love it. It's great. 8 out of 10, very original, and definitely recommended. And remember, beer is working class champagne.